Hi, my name's Amelia. I'm here in the eastern suburbs Banksia Scrub area of Sydney Park in Sydney's inner west, and today I'm going to be conducting a ecological and cultural site inspection of this site that I've chosen. I've obtained the relevant permissions to work in this site from the City of Sydney Council, from Apanga, which is the company I work for, and also the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council. None of them required me special permission to work in this site as it's accessible to the public, but appreciated being contacted and told that I would be working here. So this area is in the jurisdiction of City of Sydney Council and is one of their parklands. So they're one of the stakeholders of this piece of land. Also Apanga, the company I work for, we're contracted to work in this area, and we come here around twice a week and sometimes come to this area of eastern suburbs Banksia Scrub. And the third stakeholder I contacted was the Metropolitan Local Aboriginal Land Council, and they protect the interests of Aboriginal people and Aboriginal land in this area. And so all three of those were contacted just to let them know that I would be working here and whether they had any concerns. So this is the site I'll be working on. It's essentially a long rectangular site, and there's this informal path that runs along the long side, one of the long sides of this area. It extends about 20 meters or so this way, and then there's a boundary fence at the back. I would say it's probably around 100 meters long and about 20 meters wide. So it's a long, skinny site, and it's gently sloped upwards. So this area, Sydney Park, is unique in that it used to be landfill, and so it's not remnant bushland. The topsoil has been replaced, but there are still issues with soil and different chemicals that are in the soil, and gases as well. But the regeneration efforts here have been improving the soil, and they're trying really hard to kind of bring back especially patches of the park to the remnant bushland, specifically in this instance in the eastern suburbs Banksia Scrub. This used to be a widespread plant community in the coastal area of Sydney, and obviously through colonisation it's been lost, and so it's become critically endangered. So they're really focusing on bringing this back. So that's why this area is not necessarily as accessible to the public as other areas of the park. It has a informal path through it, so it doesn't get a lot of foot traffic, and so it stays pretty well protected. So this area is dominated by scrub species, so smaller shrubs, not a lot of large trees. So you've got Banksia species, Melaleuca, Leptospermum, Kunzia, Hakea, Acacia, different species of those genus that are native to coastal Sydney. And then you also have Dianellas, Lomandras, and a few different native vines like Herbaceae scandens. So I'll just show you some of the common scrub species that are in this area. Is the Melaleuca linearifolia. This is the Leptospermum levigatum. Here we've got the AHCECR309. This is a really common one, the Acacia longifolia. This is Lemanja caerulea. This in the background here is the Bankia integrifolia. This is the Casuarina distyla. That's just a small one, but there's many of them. This is the Hibertia scandens. This is Commelina cyanea. This is Viola hederaceae. This is Hakea sericea. This is Banksia emula. This is Callistemon viminalis. Here you've got Banksia ericifolia. This is Banksia serrata. And this is Consia ambigua. So today I've got my PPE on, which is a hat, I've got sunblock on, I've got my long sleeve shirt with my collar up just for extra sun protection, and long sleeves, I've got my gloves just in case there's anything spiky, and I've long pants on, long socks, some nice steel cap hiking boots, and I've also put on some insect repellent before I came here because there are some ants and mosquitoes and things like that. So the controls I'll be using today obviously will be PPE and sun protection. It's going to be a heat wave today, so I'm taking extra precaution with the sun protection. I've got my 50 plus block out. I'll also be using correct manual handling techniques, awareness, so keeping an eye on my surroundings. There are a lot of there's a lot of debris and fallen branches and uneven sloped ground today, so just making sure I look where I'm stepping. And yeah, that's about it. So today I won't need to use too many tools or much equipment. The site was accessible by foot and it's very close to my house, so no vehicles. I will be using a trowel possibly just to check for erosion, and possibly some secateurs to cut back any dead foliage. Some of the areas are a little bit hard to access because there's a lot of overgrown foliage, so just to safely get through to certain areas. I've also got a hand lens to ID any species I don't know. That will help me get a closer look at certain details of the plant. And I also have on my phone today access to PlantNet and iNaturalist, which will help me ID any species, but I'm very used to this area as I've worked here a few times, and I know most of the species pretty well. And of course I'll also be using my phone to take videos and photos of some of the plants and target weeds in this area. So some of the features of this site, there is an informal pathway that runs along one long side of the site. There's a decent slope, probably around 45 degrees, and there's a lot of on the lower part of this site, a lot of fallen limbs that have been left there for habitat. You also get some bigger trees here, some eucalyptus and casuarina species that sort of line the path. And then as you get up a bit higher, you've got the more stunted shrub species. And then also here you've got some of the dianellas and grasses and leaf litter. So the site is essentially split up into three sections. There's the lower half, which is a lot of weed species, predominantly AHCECR309, but you've also got some tuckaroos popping up, which are not native to this area, some small camphor laurels. You've also got some blackberry nightshade, quite a lot of those little seedlings popping up. Got some celtis, lots of little celtises popping up. And a lot of Biden's pilosa, just little ones in this area. Some little fleabanes, some summer grass, and that's about it for this area. That's all in amongst these lovely Dianella caerulea. Here's a bigger patch of Biden's here, and also cider rhombifolia. In the middle section of the site, the weeds get a lot thicker and a lot bigger. So you can see here there's some big seeding Biden's pilosa, a lot of phyllanthus. You can see here this area here is very, very degraded. There's almost nothing but weeds here, and a lot of plants that seem to be struggling. It's very hard to not get Biden seeds all over you in this area. A lot of blackberry nightshade. Some celtis over here. Some ciders. A lot of phyllanthus here. Some bigger fleabanes. And some bigger asters here. It looks as though someone's come through and sprayed some of the bigger fleabanes that were here last time I walked through this site, so that's good. And yeah, some purple tops just here. A lot of Bidens, which just seems to be dominating this area. And in this longer top section here, along the back boundary fence, the weeds seem to be suppressed by the thicker vegetation. As you can see, it's very, very thick here, hard to get through. But it seems to be doing the job in suppressing the weeds in this area. So the worst area in my mind is the middle section. You've got a lot of seeding Bidens, a lot of fleabane, purple tops, blackberry nightshade that need to be worked on first, and also the lower section with the AHCECR309 that is very dominant there. They are the sections that they would be the primary focus. I would be hand removing all of the annuals and woody weeds, and where they can't be hand removed, I'd be cutting and painting. For the area of AHCECR309, because it's so large, I would look into doing some steam weeding or some drizzling of chemicals. In the City of Sydney Council, we're not allowed to spray, so yeah, we would be looking at sort of other techniques using chemicals or chemical-free techniques, or it could also be hand weeded as well. The secondary weed removal would require going into all areas, including the top section, and just going through and doing a more detailed sweep, removing all of the smaller seedlings that have popped up since the last primary weed removal, looking at some of the grasses in the middle section, like couch, and steam spraying, steam weeding, or drizzling or hand removing that. That doesn't seem to be as prolific as the AHCECR309 in the bottom section. I would also be making sure to weed around any native ground covers to make sure that they can spread, and in sections where the ground cover is very thick, looking at doing some transplanting into sections where there aren't a lot of ground covers. I think for the time being this area needs pretty regular maintenance, once or twice a week, with a sort of substantial team to just make sure that the grasses especially don't become overgrown, and to make sure those annuals and woody weeds stop popping up, and just doing a regular sweep through this area. And then after that, I would recommend looking at replanting in the area, especially the lower section. After the AHCECR309 has been removed, it's probably going to be quite bare, so just to avoid any erosion, I would suggest putting in species like Lomandra longifolia and Dinella caerulea, and potentially some Fabaceae species, which we could then green compost through into the soil, just to bring back some of the nitrogen and different nutrients back into the soil, and help improve that soil condition. On the slopes here, I think there actually may be a little bit of erosion happening as the rain trickles down this slope. Just pulling the leaf cover aside, the ground looks quite dry and quite rocky too, lacking in nutrients, and so that is probably pushing a lot of nutrients down the hill. And then you see a lot of AHCECR309 along the bottom just here, so it's also pushing those weed seeds to the boundary where the walkway is. So I think planting in this area will be very beneficial to kind of to prevent that erosion from getting worse, and improving the soil condition. There is quite a lot of bird life in this area, which is good. I think there's quite a diverse range of species here. So I've heard magpies, native miners and kookaburras so far, and I have heard some rustling in the grasses, so I think there may be a little bit of reptile life here as well. And I did see some native bees earlier, which I'm trying to get on camera, but they're very hard to see. So I believe this area can be regenerated back to a very good condition bush. Also on the slope, I've noticed quite a few dead or dying small trees or large shrubs, which may also be a result of erosion and them not getting enough nutrients. So I wouldn't actually remove them, I would keep them for habitat, and I would try and grow some vines on them, like Herbaceae scandens, just to use them as a support for some native vines. And then hopefully once we start replanting the area, this will be a viable spot to support those different shrub species.